years. Oh, good. We're recording. Very nice. Thank you. And I will share my screen here in a moment. But Erin nailed it. Yes, middle school. I have taught all levels pre-K through high school, but have landed in middle school and love it. And Voces is a big part of why I've been able to just stick it out in middle school. I know a lot of people are like, no, anything but middle school. But I love it. I'm a huge fan. All right, so I'm going to share my screen right here. And thank you to Canva for helping me here. All right. And we'll make it bigger for you so you can see it better. All right. And you're welcome to keep your screen off or keep your screen on. I love participation. So you can even unmute and shout something at me if you want. You can throw things in the chat. I know Erin's going to back me up and help me out and make sure I don't miss anything important. I will say right now, and Erin can remind me at the end if I forget because I'm too wound up and excited, I will share my link to the whole presentation for you. And it has hyperlinks built in so that you can find the documents that I am going to talk about. All right, so we are going to consider what unique learning paths could look like using Voces. And I don't know where you all are. I don't know if you've been using Voces for a long time or a while, or you're brand new, but my goal today is to try to win you over, so to speak, to the idea of going beyond just some like traditional differentiation within your class and taking it to the next level with unique learning paths. So you may have heard people talk about student choice and student voice. So yes, it's all about that. And Voces gives us really so much to work with. And that's what I'm going to share with you today is some possibilities. I wanted to give you a quick glimpse of the context of my classroom. No, that's not my classroom that you're looking at the picture. That is the Cathedral of Learning at the University of Pittsburgh, but I can see it out my classroom window. I can't quite see that view, but I can see it, the top of it from my window at my school at Winchester Thurston here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I do kind of like to know where people are from. Is it okay if I ask, can you put in the chat, what state or region are you zooming in from today? Go ahead and throw it in the chat. I love it. Oh, we've got Michigan, Ohio. Very nice. Thank you. Oh, yes, we're sharing the recording too later. Thank you for sharing where you are from. That's exciting. Okay, I have been to Ohio, of course, it's very close to Pittsburgh, and Michigan as well. All right, so sharing a little bit of context because some of you might be thinking, okay, Nicole, I've considered trying to offer unique learning paths for my students. I just can't wrap my brain around how that could work. How does that work in your classroom? So I think it would be helpful if I just shared a little bit of what my classroom is like, and then you can always ask more questions later, of course. So I am using with my middle schoolers, I am primarily using Nuestra Historia Uno, or the Our Story curriculum, level 1. But I also have been dipping into Puentes, which was created for middle schoolers. And I have been known to dip into Spanish Novice in the past to pull some goodies out of there, and also the level 2 of Our Story. So I do not always just stick with one thing, and I tend to tweak things from year to year. And I want to give you permission to do that, especially if you are new to Voces. So I teach grades 6 through 8 on a block schedule. As many of you know, that means I typically see my students every other day. So 3 days one week, 2 days the next week. We are very busy in class, and so we do not waste 1 minute, and my students know that. They come in, I expect them to be ready to go, and Voces is a big part of what I use in my class. So my students, Winchester Thurston is an independent school, and so being a non-public school, I don't want, with no assumptions here. I want you to know that my students fall on a spectrum of motivation, skill, and language experience in all my classes. So I am constantly in need of some kind of differentiation and ways to get students motivated, ways to get them engaged. And again, that whole student choice and voice just helps so much. And so in my school, the idea of competency or skills based learning is fully supported. And I'm super fortunate. Again, I don't know where you all are sitting today or what kind of classroom you are going to be sitting in this fall as we return to classes. But it is super helpful that I do have that support from administration. That a few years ago, I started adjusting my grade book and what my grade book looks like. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. A lot of my decisions have been influenced by the Grading for Equity. It's a book, it's also kind of a movement. And also the When You Wonder You're Learning by Greg Bear and Ryan Radzewski. I'm not going to say that correctly. If you are familiar with Mr. Rogers, who of course is known for being in Pittsburgh, you will enjoy that book. So I highly recommend it. I use class novels on a regular basis in all grades in my classes, as well as free voluntary reading. I call it free choice for my students, but FVR, as many of you know it, I use hard copies in my library, in my classroom, and I also use Flangu, which is an awesome digital resource. Okay. I'm going to look, this is going to be an option for sort of a choice of participation, if you will. I'm going to look at the chat and keep my eye on the screen as well. How many of you are using the personalized questions or PQA in your classroom? Anybody using it? You can respond in any way you want. You can raise your hand, you can raise your digital hand, you can put it in the chat. Anybody using PQA or personalized questions to get your students talking? Okay, yes, thank you, Darlene. Thank you, thank you. Yes, so Voces is wonderful, and it provides a whole slew of personalized questions in each unit with each story or most of the stories. And I just wanted you to know that I use them a little bit differently than a lot of teachers that I know. So I thought I would mention that. I usually work those questions into my question of the day, which is near the start of my class routine. And we kind of go from there. We build from there. And sometimes we work in some of the extra questions as well. But typically I have a question of the day to get students writing and speaking to each other and then sharing out with the class. And that's where my personalized questions appear. So that might be different than you have seen it before. I want you to know that a lot of the time I am monitoring my students' screens, right? So my school does use Go Guardian. If you're not familiar, it's a way that if I needed to, I could check really quickly and see if a student is on task. In addition, I will walk around the room. I will sometimes have students turn their desks so that their backs are to me so that I can quickly look at their screens that way. And I also typically, when they are on Voces, I have it set, if it's an assignment, I have it set so that they cannot leave the page. And so I highly recommend that. That helps my students to stay focused, to not be checking their email, to not be working on, social studies or whatever it is, chemistry, while they're in Spanish class. And that's another reason why we are very productive and get a lot done. Okay, the last thing that I want to share about my classroom context is that this past year, 5 of our 8th graders, that's right, 8th graders, have achieved the Global Seal of Biliteracy. Why am I sharing this with you? This is a big deal. I know, like first time. I'm sharing this with you because I truly believe that Voces is such a huge part of that success for my students. And I will point that out to you as we move forward here, how I think that is connected. It's not just because I'm a fabulous teacher, although I try my best, right? It is the tools we've been using, and Voces is huge. All right. So you are familiar with these modes of communication from Actville. So when I say that I have adjusted my gradebook to be skills-based, some teachers prefer to have their skills organized by mode or their grades organized by modes. So interpretive, interpersonal, presentational, that's wonderful and fine. I, however, prefer to have my gradebook look a little bit more like this. So it has the target language, communicative skills, reading, listening, writing, speaking. Excuse me. And so those are my grade categories for the most part. I also have an intercultural competency, and I have a small category for multiple skills technically, but the majority of my grade book are these 4 skills. And the benefit of that is, number one, Voces provides everything I need, or like at least 98% of what I use to assess my student skills, for my students to practice those communicative skills. It's coming from Voces, right? But also it's amazing because, and now that I've been doing this for years, students can look at their online gradebook and see, hey, it's not just that I have a 90% test average, but I can see where I am with my reading skills versus my listening skills, etc. And that prompts them to be a little bit more motivated, I think. I actually once had an 8th grader ask the visiting upper school or high school teacher who came to visit in the spring. The student said, well, excuse me, Senor so-and-so, can you tell us how we're going to be graded? Because here in middle school Spanish, we know what our skills are. Are we going to know what our skills are when we look at our grades? So it has made a big difference in their motivation. And that was coming from a student who needs a little help with motivation from time to time. Okay, so why would we consider unique learning paths, and what is that? What does that look like? How can we pull that off? So the first thing I would say that it's important to know, and you like all my little outdoor pictures, my hiking and camping, right? Because we're all on a journey. Our students are on a journey. We are on a journey with them. Other than being the sort of trail guide for your student, you are also a curator. You are going to be curating evidence of their skills, right? Again, whether you break your grades up into modes or the communicative skills like I do, you are curating evidence, and Voces is going to help you do that. So some benefits are students are able to explore the language and culture according to their curiosity when you give them a choice. And not just maybe where this is where I kind of started, right, with differentiation. Okay, I'm going to call on this student. First of all, this student's hand is popping out of their socket, right, their shoulder, because they're waving their hand. I need to answer. I need to answer. Okay, I'm going to call on that student. And then I'm going to call on this student over here because I know they can answer a more challenging question. And then I'm going to kind of back it up to a more basic question for this student here, who I know is a little bit more reserved and not super confident in their skills and maybe doesn't have enough experience or a lot of experience in the language. So that's where I started, right? And then I started offering choice. And when you offer that choice, a bigger choice, not just on how to answer or which question to answer, you're offering a choice of an activity or a reading or even a unit or a project. That's going to get them a little bit more excited about learning in your class. So one of the things I've seen, I read about it before I actually started doing it during the pandemic. This is increased agency and increased efficacy, right, for students. And I used to kind of be confused about those two words. So over here, you can see it says agency versus efficacy. For me, it's helpful to focus on the A in agency. Increased student agency means your student is an active participant in their own learning in your class, whether it's Spanish, French, Italian, English, whatever it is. They are not only involved, but they are taking time to pause and reflect. They are setting goals. These are things we need to make time for in class. They're setting goals. They're reflecting on those goals. They are asking for help when needed. And then they are getting right back on track and getting to work because they know that what they are doing is meaningful and purposeful. So it's the action of the student, right? They are doing their best to complete their work. They are being resourceful when they get stuck. They need to go and find the answer somewhere. The efficacy is more of their belief what they have internalized about their ability to learn the language. And so I like to talk about how Voces and the other things that we do in class build both, I say this to parents a lot, skills and confidence, right? If a student is pretty highly skilled but has really, really low confidence and they don't believe they're going to do well in my class, guess what? They're going to have a harder time, right? They're going to be less willing to have that student agency and to be involved. So those two things I think go hand in hand. Again, I mentioned goals reflection. This allows for time for self-assessment, and this lends itself to one-on-one check-ins with the teacher. And I will explain how we make time for those one-on-one check-ins very shortly. With unique learning paths, students make a unique contribution to the class. So if you were looking into the background or digging deeper into a photo from El Salvador, I'm looking at a different photo from El Salvador. So we're both looking at something from El Salvador, whether it's a monument or a park or whatever, a restaurant. And we are kind of digging deeper and then bringing it back to the partner or bringing it out to share with the class. Either way, I have something unique that I'm sharing. I am not doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And that motivates me a little bit more. Students also gain skills and confidence. We talked about that. But in particular, in connecting their target language to the world beyond their classroom. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just scoop up all of our students and take them somewhere to the target culture or where the target language is spoken? We can't always do that, right? But we can connect them using Voces in one way or another. So as I said before, I think Voces is the secret to success for my students who earned the Global Seal of Biliteracy. I will say that this connection to the greater world outside of our classroom helped my students when it was time to do a video exchange with a classroom in Spain. And they were so ready for that. They were kind of nervous, right, externally. But once they saw what we were going to be talking about themselves, talking about their likes and dislikes, what they like to do in their free time, etc., they were like, oh, we've done this already. We can do this. We can totally do this. Again, agency, efficacy. They had the skills to do it because they did the work and they believed they could do it. And it was phenomenal. And if you don't know, there is an In My Community part in Voces, which we can totally look at if you want, which has some great prompts for taking the language outside of the classroom. Okay, and then students understand their skill profile if we are giving them a grade, if they are earning a grade on their skills, not just on completing tasks. All right. So one of the things we're going to do as the teacher and the expert in learning languages is we're going to provide a map with options to our students. Again, we're going beyond dividing up questions for students. We're actually providing a little bit of a roadmap for them. And when we do that, before we let them set foot on their trail, on this new trail for language acquisition with options, we need to remove the obstacles, right? We need to clear the path for them. And I know this is all kind of abstract right now. I promise I'm going to show you some practical ways to do this. When you remove the sort of traditional obstacles that are there, and I think we know what those are, students are better able to move forward and to advance and to meet their goals. So we want to remove that whole, everybody does the same thing at the same time at the same pace. Yes, we're going to do a lot of things together. So, right, hear me now. We're going to do a lot of things together. We're going to build that foundation. We're going to scaffold, but then we're going to give students an opportunity to break off and do their own thing within the boundaries of learning the target language and according to what the teacher knows is best for them. So you are still the expert in the room. I can't say that enough. Okay, we're going to remove that situation where some students never master the skills that would allow them to succeed at the next level. Nope, gone. Imagine a world where most of the time you are able to gather all your students and guide them forward and advance in their proficiency in the language. And yes, there's still going to be a range, there's still going to be a spectrum of skills and experience, but no one is left behind. As long as they are showing up to class and basically doing what you ask them to do, they cannot be left behind. We're going to remove the lack of reflection, right? Or there's no reflection on what went well, what is still a growth area, and which strategies could be used in the future to do a little bit better, to improve those skills. We're going to get rid of that. We are not going to just go, you know what? Language learning is not a checklist, right? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm done. I don't have to do that again. I don't have to revisit that vocabulary. I don't have to go back to those grammar structures. Guess what? It is a journey, and we will continue to need those skills. So we need to take some time to reflect and see how we're doing and check in. Okay. The last obstacle we're going to remove is, okay, you know who these students are. These are the students who they're raising their hand wildly when you ask the questions. These are the students who might ask for extra work. Well, do they really have to do extra work to be more advanced in your class? That's the question, right? Those students who are ready to advance sometimes cannot, because we say, well, you need to do all of these things first. And then if you want, you can come see me in study hall. We have core at my school. We call it core. Come see me in core, and I'll give you an extra worksheet, or I'll give you an extra story to read. What if there was a world where those students who really are motivated and really are working on their skills and really want to move forward, what if they could, at certain points in your class, choose something that is maybe a little bit more challenging? So imagine that, and we'll move you forward. Okay, so when I talk about students knowing their skill profile, if they peek in at their grade book, right, this might be what they see. Okay, I've got a 79% right now in reading and 80% in listening, etc. Right? We want to motivate them to succeed, to keep learning the language. So each student's in a different place. But now I know which skills are a little higher than others, right? We want to keep working on those high skills, and then we want to bring up the skills that are a little lower. So, okay, some of you math-brained people are looking at those numbers and saying, okay, so this student must have an 85% average, right? In this case, yeah, I had to do that math in advance. Don't laugh. And so the student is going to come to me and say, Senora Hartung, well, I only have an 85%. And one of my goals is actually to have an A in Spanish class, right? Okay. Can I have extra credit? Nope. I don't do extra credit. So let's look at your skills. Let's take a minute. Let's sit down and look. Okay, let's look at your skills. Which skill would you like some extra practice in before the next assessment of that skill? So looking at this skill profile, if you are this student, and there's no one answer here, can you please share which skill you might say you want to focus on, or you want some additional practice on? Or if you have a choice, for example, which one would you choose? You can either put it in the chat or speak out. Is this student going to pick writing skills or reading skills? Yeah, I think let's go with the student's going to say, okay, well, reading is my lowest. So how about I'm going to focus on that. So if I have a choice between a reading or listening, I know it's only 1 percentage point difference, but I'm going to, Senora, I'm going to choose reading this time and see if I can work on those skills and build up those skills a little bit. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, reading and listening, reading. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You got the idea. But it's a conversation with the student. It's not, oh, here's a worksheet and I'll give you an extra point at the end. All right, so we're motivating them to move forward. Okay, so if you are going to consider some kind of a unique learning path for your students, it lends itself to a student portfolio, where at the end, whether it's digital, hard copy, you decide, a mix of the two, you've got this student portfolio, and the student says, hey, this is what I've been doing in Spanish class. this is what I have learned. I sort of joke with my students that certain things that they produce, certain artifacts, certain work, I say, oh, this is going to go in your gold box under your bed, right? For Spanish, that you're going to save that for upper school. And they do, some of them, not all of them. Some of them do. It might not be a gold box, but they save it in a little box or a bin or a folder under their bed. And they tell me about it later in upper school. They come back and they say, oh, that was so great. And I'm so glad I saved that. It was so helpful. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a gold box under their bed, but that student portfolio is gold when it comes time to share with the families or the parents, whether it's conference day or a parent is asking, hey, how is my student doing in Spanish? You're going to say, or French, whatever your language is, you're going to say, let's look at their portfolio together. And I'm going to share a snapshot of what that looks like here in a moment. That's where the student is going to record their goals, their reflections on their goals, what they still want to work on. It's where they get to show off what they know and what they can do. Okay. So right before we jump in here to practically what this looks like in Voces, what happens when students actually reach their goals? What happens for those students who are the fast finishers? What happens when the assessment is over and there is some time for students to do something else and they are ready and willing to do something else? That is a perfect time. Teacher, you are the expert, right? You can direct them if you want. You can direct them to a task. You can use something else on Voces if you want that's connected that you haven't used yet. You can let them choose a project. What I love to do is ask them, okay, what are you still curious about? You just learned about Chile and El Salvador. Which one of those countries would you like to go back to? And let them go back to one of the cultural notes, one of the photos, one of the videos or interviews, and let them dig deeper. Could your students create a travel brochure? Could they create a podcast talking about how awesome this park would be to visit? There are lots of things that they can do. They can create a social media post, whatever you want to do. They can even write an essay or an article. Lots of options. You could even have them choose a novel that is connected to the target culture. Okay, so get ready. We're going to get practical here. Okay, so different paths for students, but essentially the same skills. Remember, my grade book is broken up by those skills, right? Reading, writing, listening, speaking. So part of what I needed to do as the educator is I had to let go a little. I had to let go of a little bit of control. And this is hard for some of us to do. And for me, like Erin said, I've been using Voces for years. This will be year 8, and it should be year 9. I wish I could go back in time, by the way, and redo the first year that I had the option to change the curriculum. I wish I had done it that first year. But this will be year 8. It was gradual for me, letting go of that control. And I started with the low-hanging fruit and started giving students a choice there. And then I branched out from there. So we're going to look at what that's going to look like here. So as long as students are working on the same skills, you as the expert can still say, hey, this student is however you want to do it, right? In that 90% to 100% range, right? So they're definitely in that A range. This student is in the B range for reading and they're leaning toward an A or however you want to do that. You are the expert. And so I would say, I would encourage you today, if you're thinking about this, to take a step back and say, where can I let go a little bit of the control where not everybody's doing the same thing? That was a little bit of a challenge for me, I confess. So again, the good news is Voces provides so many opportunities for us to do this, which I will show you. Voces is also providing for us those auto-graded tasks after a story, which could be a yes or no question, could be who is it, right? ¿Quién es? If you are doing the Spanish version, right? Who is it? Who said this in the story? It could be true or false. Those auto-graded tasks are giving students instant feedback. And you can set it up that way that, yes, the student can see what they got correct and what they didn't get correct right away. You can also set up your assignments so that students have to get 100% or at least a 90% before they move on to the next activity. Those are just no-brainer ways to give students that instant feedback and allows you to focus on the bigger actionable feedback as the teacher that is going to be more valuable for them when they need to decide where to go next. Okay. And then while they are working on the same skills, they are often doing this independently. Yes, I get them started a lot on my own, or all of us as a class. And I say, okay, this is what we're looking for here. These are your choices. Make an intelligent decision here. Make a good decision for yourself. And then we can move forward and let them work independently. And it works. Yes, it takes some time and it takes some practice. It takes skill. It takes practice, right? But they can and they will do this. All right, let's see what this could look like. And dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this is the link that will be in the slideshow that we'll share at the end. And this is what it looks like. All right, we're going to get rid of that right now. Okay. So as you see, I have prepared this for you. And we're going to slide it down a little bit. These are some possibilities. And you're going to look at this and you might say, Nicole, why would you do this to yourself? Or I don't know if that's going to work in my class or at my school or in my world language department. Even if you only begin offering a bigger choice to students in one way this year, that is okay. So remember, I've been doing this for years, so don't be overwhelmed, and you do not have to do it the way I do it, right? Give yourself permission to do it in the way that you know your students need to work on those tasks and how they're going to learn the language, how they're going to acquire the language. Okay, so I am looking at the Our Story curriculum, and this happens to be Unit 3 in Nuestra Historia Uno. And I have highlighted, color-coded, highlighted. Where are my highlighted and my color-coded people? Yep. I had to color-code it. So when you see this lovely peach beige color, this means essentially we're all doing it. What is not included in this document is you won't see exactly how I scaffold it, right? We might start out all together. I might let them do the next activity with a partner, and then I might let them do the next activity on their own. But the idea is everyone is completing these things. When you see the light blue and the light purple, that's when you have a student choice opportunity. They are different colors because sometimes they need to choose within the blue and then right away they have to choose within the purple, and I needed to separate those out. And then the next type of choice would be this lovely, I don't know what you'd call it, sky, or not sky blue, but turquoise blue, I guess, and a darker purple. It's another choice, but it's actually a block of activities that they're choosing. And then the orange, of course, is assessment of their skills. And I decided I needed a little green in there. So I wanted you to know when there's a smaller choice and they basically get to, typically they work with a partner and have a conversation about a topic or a photo or something, and then, or a story. And then they can choose one of those answers or one of those themes that came up as their exit ticket before they leave the room. All right. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at essentially a document where all I did was I took from the work summary in Voces, and I can show you where I pulled that from. And I just put it in this document so that I had a nice list. Is this a very creative looking, graphic organizer? No. And this is more for the teacher, right? Not necessarily the student. But you could decide how you want to share that with your students. So if you can look, you'll see we start with the countries here. So this lovely peach color, right? We're all together when we work through Descubre, and I'm sharing a little bit about each culture. So discovering the countries. But as soon as I get into Visitemos, right? Or let's visit Chile y El Salvador, they are going to have a choice right away. So we're going to begin together. We're going to model how to talk about the photos. We're going to click on the information behind the photo, which here at this level is actually in English. I believe, right? In the upper levels, it's in the target language. And then for the rest of the photos, I let students choose. They can work in small groups, it's up to you, but they choose which photo they want to dig deeper, they want to find out about. They can speak with a partner and present to the class. Again, they are providing something unique. It's okay if one other person or two other people in the class have their photo, but not the whole class will have their photo. So they are doing something unique. And then encuesta is just the survey. Which country, often, right? Which country would you prefer to visit? And Erin, I just have to give you guys kudos because I noticed recently that there was something different for the survey. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where they can say, "Oh, I don't want to go to either country." I love it, but it's a choice, right? Not everybody is going to say, yes, I picked Chile over El Salvador. Some students are going to say, I don't want to go to either country, or I want to go to both countries. Like, that's fine. Like, we just provided another choice for them, but they are going to say that or share that in the target language. So kudos to you guys for that. Although, like, part of me wants to force them to choose a country, right? If you had to choose, which one would you choose? But I love it. Okay. And so you can see all this peach here in the beginning. That means we're all staying together. We're all working on this together with some normal scaffolding, of course. Okay, boom, I see something blue. So for this story, ¿Qué tiempo hace en Chile? We work through the vocabulary. We click through the pictures together. We create our own version of the story with Nuestra Historia. We usually I start them out with quién es, who is it, and then I set them free to do the rest themselves, or I might have them work with a partner again. And then activity 2 here, which is really just fill in the blank essentially. It's wonderful though, great word bank for students to choose from often. Let them do that by themselves. Now they're ready for a choice already, right? So now they get to choose either activity 3 or activity 4. And you see the big W there for writing and the big S for speaking. Okay, wait a minute, Nicole. Why would you have them choose between writing and speaking? Here's why. In either case, they are producing the language. That's number 1. Number 2, this is practice still. This is not assessment. So this beige or peach color, this blue, these are practice, which means in my grade book, it's not even going in my grade book. I have a record of it, and Voces does a great job of helping me keep a record, right? I can look in my little grade book on Voces and see. And if I really wanted to, I could put it in my grade book for parents and students to see, but I would say it's practice. And I would count it at 0% in my grade book. All I want them to do is to start producing the language and build up those skills and build up those confidence. And again, here you can say, look, I need you to work on your writing skills and I need you to work on your speaking skills. Or you could say to the students, let's look back at those goals that you set at the very beginning of the year, right? Which of you, maybe I remember like 30% of you really wanted to work on your writing skills. That's what you choose. And those of you who would prefer to work on your speaking skills, that's what you choose. And at the end of the day, they've both done something very similar. They have produced the language. They're using vocabulary and structure from the story that you all just worked through together. Boom, they're ready to move forward and it motivates them to move forward. Okay. And then the orange, right? These are things that I've used as assessments. I didn't start out using them as assessments and they're not called assessments, but I love them for assessments. And so this one here, this is reading, interpretive reading on the weather or the climate. I also use the In My Community prompt, and I have students track they get to choose a city in Chile, and they track the weather there for a week, and they compare it to the weather in Pittsburgh, where we live. So by the time we get here, they are ready to take this reading assessment. Okay. And let's see here, let's move you down. Okay. So I'm going to go a little more quickly through this part because I think you get the idea, right? So here is our Historieta dos, our short story number 2, which I love, by the way. Fernando Yort, the Salvadoran artist. So we're doing a lot. Look at how much we're doing together. So much together. So many opportunities for students to ask questions, connect with a partner, etc. And if it's blank or white here, that means I might just not be doing that activity, right? And I might change my mind at the last minute, but right now I'm not doing that activity. And then I have another assessment here. Again, it doesn't say assessment, but I make an assessment because we are assessing skills. So students know that right now, when they are doing this, we are assessing their presentational writing skills. Donde vives, right? Where do you live? Talk about where you live. What is the weather like where you live? This is all stuff we've been practicing in class, right? It's all comprehensible input that they've been getting in so many different ways. They are so ready for these short assessments by the time we get there. Okay. So where you see the blue again, hey, when we get to this longer story, Historia Larga Uno, we do quién es together. We read the story together or listen to the story together. Everyone does activity 1, and then boom, activity 2, activity 4, they get to choose. Falso a cierto is not the same as true or false. You're actually changing the statements from false and making them true. And then, of course, writing an alternate ending. Hey, those are both writing skills. Yes. Okay. And so I'm going to give you a quick secret. So one of the things that I pulled from the Grading for Equity resource is the teacher as the expert. You've heard me say this over and over and over again. If for some reason a student misses a vital assessment for some reason, okay, and let's say it's a writing assessment because their parent went to the hospital or they had a death in the family or whatever, and they've missed a lot of school and it seems impossible for them to catch up. You know what I'm talking about, right? It happens. If and when that happens, I have evidence of their writing skills right there in Voces. Okay, like, no, like, don't go ahead. Someone's going to say, but Nicole, that's not fair. They didn't take the same assessment as everybody else. That's the way I used to think. I used to teach that way. Well, they have to take the assessment. Excuse me, somehow. No, they don't. If you have evidence of that skill, just go back. Put it into a doc if you need to. Print it out. Say, this is the evidence of their skill. You have evidence of their skill through all of these Voces activities. Okay. All right, I'm going to skip forward a little bit because this is much of the same. And then we get to this lovely turquoise blue. Here we are. Okay. For those of you wanting to take it to the next level, here it is. Excuse me, what? You're going to let them choose between a short story and a long story? Ugh, forget it, Nicole. That'll never work. All my students are going to say, oh, this one means short story. I'm just going to pick that. Okay, maybe some of them will, right? I have those students too. I do. If they choose the shorter story, fine. They have to work through the vocab first, just like you have done in class, right? And you could make the whole class do the vocab, even if not everybody's doing that story. You could also go that route. But I would say, okay, you chose the shorter story, or maybe you need to assign certain students the shorter story. I don't know, because they need more of that basic vocab. And they need to work through the vocab. They need to answer the questions following the vocab slides, which are awesome, by the way. And then they need to complete activities 1, 2, 3. And guess what? If you're doing the longer story, you're reading the story and you're doing activities 1, 2, and 3. Pretty close, pretty fair, if you ask me. Okay, somebody might say, oh, senora, that's not fair. Let them say, okay, meet me in court, meet me in study hall. We'll talk about it. But I'm not going to argue with you in class because I'm the expert. You have to trust me. Okay. So that's one other way to give them choice. And then what is purple? Yep. We have long story or historia larga 3. They can choose that. Or they can choose historia larga 4. And 3 activities each. Sounds pretty even to me, right? All right. And now we come to the low-hanging fruit. Friends, this is where I started. This was the I'm showing this to you sort of in chronological, right, Voces order. But this is where I started. If you do nothing else this year with Voces, if you do nothing else new, or if you're brand new to Voces and you really want to offer student choice in a bigger way, this is where you go. You scroll down through, right, the table of contents. And wait, we're not calling it, it's not a tornado anymore, right, Erin? What's it called?
A hamburger.
Thank you. The hamburger, una hamburguesa. Okay. So you look at the hamburger or the table of contents, whatever you want to call it. I have some of my students really love the tornado. They got used to the tornado. It's okay. They'll love the hamburger too. I'll have to get we'll have them design a poster for the hamburger or something. This is where you come all the way down toward the end. You're past your beginner stories. And now you're in some of the fun stuff and the really great cultural stuff. Do not skip this. Okay. So Profe Loco videos, I typically show them both because they love Profe Loco. And then I say, okay, based on your goals, choose which one of those videos you want to go back to because they're hysterical and they're happy to watch it again on their own device, right? Do you want to work on your writing skills or do you want to work on your listening skills based on the activity and the story? And you choose. Go. By the way, you go. I'll be over here. I might call a couple students up for a quick one-on-one, but you're going to rewatch the video and then you're going to answer those questions only for the video that you chose. How cool is that? All right, we're going to come down. Senor Jordan, that's super lapis. Love the super lapis. I'm going to go quickly through that because I could talk about that all day. I often use super lapis as a sub plan, by the way. Huge, huge for a sub plan. Okay. When you get to extra, you have articles, you have cultural notes, you have interviews. Okay, look at the pattern here, my friends, because this is so doable. Here's the orangey peach color. We all do La Isla de Pascua together. Yes. And we walk through how to work through that article. What do you do if you don't know a word? Do you have to look up the words? No, you can use those blue hover over words to help you to keep going. Get the gist of the reading. Please, don't worry if there's one word you don't understand, etc. Model that for them with the first article. And then boom, how beautiful is this? Then you get to choose between these two blue ones right here. Again, practice. This is practice. You could turn these into assessments if you wanted to, but I typically don't. And then the purple options here, those are cultural notes. Same thing. Choose. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. I think actividades en El Salvador. Okay, let's see if I can come over here to Voces. All right. All right. Are you all looking at my Voces screen right now? Okay, good. All right. So I just have to.
Oh, wait, we're still looking at the
Oh,
Google Doc. Sorry.
oh, you're still looking at the Google Doc, not my
Yeah.
Voces. Okay. So let me go back. Maybe I need to stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, you might have to reshare.
Okay. We will stop that. We will come to Voces. Yes, please. We want to share that. Okay. So I can, I think, get there this way too, right? Okay. Extra. All this is beautiful cultural and language gold, people. So if you are new to Voces, enjoy some of these articles and videos, etc. You're going to love working through these with your students. Okay, so we did this one together. Let's see, trying to give you an idea. Okay, so when students have a choice, well, here, I'll show you. La Isla de Pascua, because I know I'm going to run out of time here very shortly to make this bigger. Okay, so we have our lovely can-do statement. What are we doing? What is the point? Everything is meaningful. There's no busy work. There's only meaningful work in my class. I show them how to do the version A, answer some questions, version B, answer some questions, etc. We work through this together. They love Easter Island. They love it. Okay. And then, actually, let me slide down here. Next page. Okay. Oh, that's not it though, because it brought me to something else. Just kidding. Just kidding. We're going to do it this way. We're going to go back to the hamburger. Extra. Okay. Yes. Artículos. Okay. So now my students are going to choose between educando or artesanía, and I'm going to actually take time in class to show them. I'm either going to do this at the end of a class to get ready for the next day so that I can assign it to them, or I'm going to do it before a quick 2-minute break in my class and let them stretch and get some water. So I'm going to say, okay, this is what it looks like. There's your version A, there's your questions, there's your version B. Their computers aren't even open right now, right? This is what it looks like. Some of them are counting the questions, right? How many questions? There's version C, etc. And then I want to please take me to the next thing. Yep. And here is your option B. Here's what it looks like. Same thing, version A, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let them count the questions and pick the one that's shorter if they want. Some students will do that. And some of them will actually choose based on what the theme is or what the topic is. You assign it to them for when they come back from their break or for the next day. They come in, they know they can do it. You have that time to check progress, to offer actionable feedback. Okay. Here we go. All right. Entrevistas are interviews. If you have not yet seen it, Lara, she is my all-time favorite interview in all of Voces of all time. There will never be a better one. She is the best. We all watch her interview together. Here she is. Check her out. Do you love her already? Like, just look at her and imagine her interview. You have a transcript here, the teacher does. They have helpful vocab and they are going to respond, right, to these questions. But you are working through these together. And then boom, okay, class, it's your turn. You can choose. All right, they're going to be superficial. Here's Eduardo. Okay, show them Eduardo. Go over the can do statements. Oh, Eduardo es muy guapo, right? Okay, I know you're going to pick based on looks. Let them. It's okay. Melanie, right? Who's going to check out Melani's interview? They are essentially using the same skill. They are watching a native speaker speak. They are doing their best to listen and understand. They can absolutely come to you if they have questions. They have helpful vocab. I make them answer incomplete sentences, right? Writing skills as well. But mostly we want them to listen in this case. All right. This is the low hanging fruit. We do it together. You do it on your own. All right. Same thing with El Mundo en Fotos. Love those two options. Same thing for panoramas. These are photos, right? They can choose. You're going to show them before they have an option, right? And then we get to go, and they like to make it spin so that when I'm walking around the room looking at their screens, it makes me dizzy. So they make it spin really, really fast. There you are. And then they get to respond to that photo. They, believe it or not, if you encourage them, they will spend time exploring the photo. All right, I am going to stop the share for a second. And I need to see if I can I know we're at the end. I got to see if I can go back to where we were. Maybe. Oh, I'm still looking at Voces. Hang on.
We see your Google Doc though.
Oh, okay. You're looking at the Google Doc?
Yep.
Okay. Hang on. Yeah. Oh, screen sharing pause. That's why. Oop, I was trying to get back to my slideshow, which I will need to do. Okay. So
Wait, now we don't see your doc.
now you see nothing. That's all right. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try and start over. Okay.
Okay.
I gotta get back to where my Canva is, and I don't see it. So I will do that. Are there questions while I get back to that?
Can I ask a shameless question?
Yes.
Would you be willing to share that Google Doc with me so I could have an example of your choices
Yes.
with your colors and everything?
I need a second, but I need to figure out why I can't see my my slideshow. I'm going to share the slideshow and it has the links built in. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
fantastic.
Is that
Okay.
Beth? Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Because I am happy to share it all.
I
But
love the choice
Much
that you give your
appreciated.
students.
Much
It's
appreciated.
yeah.
yay. Again, it has been over time. Okay, I've got the slideshow now. I just need to share it with you again. Okay. Dun, 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 sharing the Canva slideshow. Okay. So here you are. So do you see right down here where it says, what could this look like? That's where you get that document. And then we won't have,
Perfect.
oh, hopefully you see that. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then on this screen, you can also click on a sample student choice unique learning path, as well as a sample portfolio snapshot.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And so like that, this beautiful, right, snapshot. Oh, you can't really see that because it's all blurry. But that is all in there. And I know we're about out of time. Erin, any other questions on possibilities, how something works?